Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something kind of mind-blowing today. We're tackling theosis. And yeah, it sounds intense for a reason. Think of it like, what if becoming more like God, like really becoming God, was part of the whole salvation deal?
Yeah, it's a concept that'll make you think, that's for sure. And the wild part is, this goes way back, not just some modern idea. In the early church, especially those Eastern Orthodox folks, theosis was pretty central to how they understood things.
So we're talking ancient wisdom here,
Yeah.
but becoming God, that's like a big idea. What's that mean for someone like me just trying to grasp it?
At its core, it's about how salvation at its heart is about this incredible union with God. Not just being close to him, but actually becoming so connected that we reflect his nature, like transcending our limits and experiencing God so fully that it transforms us.
Okay, I'm kind of getting it, but how's that work practically? How do we become more like God?
Imagine the sun, right? It's this endless source of warmth and light. Now think of God's goodness like that sun, and we're like plants soaking it up. The more open we are to that goodness, the more we become like it ourselves. That's the heart of participation that we're made to share in God's nature.
So the closer we are to that sun, the more radiant we become. I like that.
Right, and theosis takes it further. It says when we sin, it's like putting up a shield, blocking ourselves from that light. So salvation isn't just saying sorry, it's breaking down those barriers to bask in the divine light again.
So sinning is like wearing sunglasses on a cloudy day. Already kind of dim and you're making it worse.
Exactly. And the more we remove those blocks, those sins, the more of that light, that godlikeness we experience. That's theosis in a nutshell.
Makes sense. But I guess not everyone saw it this way, right? History's full of different takes. What happens when we jump ahead a bit? Did, say, Martin Luther, the Reformation guy, buy into this whole becoming God thing?
That's a great question. You see, Luther, he'd probably say, careful with that whole becoming God phrase. Not that getting closer to God was wrong, but for Luther, the thing holding us back, it wasn't what people thought.
Oh, so closer, yes. But theosis had it wrong on how we get there. That's interesting. What did Luther think was the problem then?
Well, remember how theosis, it's all about what we lack. Like, we got to be filled up with God's goodness. Luther kind of flipped the script. He figured the issue isn't lack of goodness, it's humans. We've got too much of our own kind of goodness going on. That's the root of it.
Too much of our own good. Isn't that, well, a good thing? How's that bad?
See, Luther called it ambition for divinity. It's that deep down thing in us wanting to be in control, like to be God, making the calls. Garden of Eden, right. First sin wasn't lacking something, but grabbing for more, being like God.
So not that we're lacking good, but we're fixated on our version of good, our own ambitions, instead of God's way.
Bingo! Like we're building our own ladders to heaven thinking we can reach him by our own doing. Luther would say, ditch the ladder, acknowledge the one holding us up already.
So less about becoming God, more about surrendering that ego trip, letting him be God.
You got it. Our human goodness, even when we mean well, it misses the point. We get tangled up in our own stuff, ambitions, and lose sight of the bigger picture. God's grace,
And how do we bridge that gap then? If we're all ambitious, striving, how's Luther say we meet God's grace?
He goes kind of radical. The cross. Not a symbol of losing, but winning over that ambition itself. On the cross, that desire to be God, to be the boss, it's put to death, and then something new can happen.
Instead of reaching for what we can't grab on our own, we got to let go first. Surrender control, let God's grace fill those spaces.
Exactly. And in that letting go, that's where Luther says we find real freedom, not striving all the time, not this pressure to earn our way in. We can be human, limits and all, and love, serve others, not from ego, but from, well, thankfulness.
Okay, that is a powerful shift. So theosis, it's about being more godlike. But Luther's saying surrender the desire to be God, and that's freedom. Both want that divine connection, but totally different approaches. Where does that leave us then? Two paths, one goal. How do we make sense of that? It's like we're putting together a puzzle, right? But we've got two sets of instructions. One says, become the picture on the box, and the other's like, empty the box, trust the process, the picture's already there. Kind of confusing.
Yeah, it can feel that way, for sure. But here's the thing. Both of these, they're trying to get us to the same place, that deep, real connection with God. It's not about picking the right path. It's more like seeing the wisdom in each one.
So not picking sides, but seeing how they fit together, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Like, think of theosis as that upward pull. You want to grow, be more like Christ, right?
Yeah.
It's in that human thing to be transformed, to experience God's love so fully that it changes us inside and out.
So theosis is like eyes on the prize, become more like God. Where does Luther's thing, the surrender, where does that fit in?
That's where Luther brings us down to earth, you know? You can't climb a mountain if you're clinging to stuff. Gotta let go of that need to control it all, loosen the grip on what we want, then our hands are open, ready for the grace that's already there. That humility, that's how we get solid footing to even start climbing.
Like we're so busy trying to reach the top, we don't see the view, or even who's helping us up. Wanting to be godlike, we forget. Just being human is okay too.
And that's where freedom comes in. Not about being some perfect divine being, but saying, hey, this messy human me, that's part of it too. We let go, admit we need God, and then real change can happen.
This has been a lot to think about. We had this ancient theosis idea, then Luther's whole surrender thing, and somehow I'm seeing a clearer path to God through it all. It's not being perfect, it's about the journey, trusting the one who's guiding us.
That's it, yeah. And the best part is, this is just the start. The more we think about this stuff, the more we open up to new ideas, challenges, understanding ourselves and God better.
And on that note, we'll let you sit with all this for a bit. What sticks with you? Theosis got you inspired, or Luther's surrender? That more your speed? How does this change how you see faith, your own relationship with God? Remember, the journey's as important as the destination, and sometimes the best discoveries are in the questions, not the answers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking, and keep diving deeper.